In this video, I will discuss issues relating to transgender people. Subjects such as religion, rights and history, depression and suicide, and slurs will be talked about. Also, this will be from the viewpoint of the US's history and situations, and for your well-being, click off this video or click A or to a certain timestamp to avoid any sensitive topics. Let's proceed. To start off, trans people have been oppressed for a long time, but most knowingly and recently in the 20th and 21st centuries. In the 1900s and still today, being trans could be a crime because there were and still are no federal laws that say being trans is not a crime. While it's not likely for someone to be arrested for being trans, it's still possible. There are quite a few states that give some protections to trans people in varying degrees. Only 21 states give full protections for trans people, such as in housing, employment, and public accommodations. 23 states give protections for employment on both public and private levels, and 22 give protections against housing discrimination. As you can see, none of these protections are given by the federal government, and none of these protections are for even 50% of states. When it comes to laws against trans people, 9 states explicitly state that gender transition surgery can't be covered by Medicaid. Since that's not too severe, there are hate crimes. Hate crime laws are far worse, with only 1 state ruling that trans people are protected by hate crime laws. We'll get into trans-related hate crimes towards the end. As you can clearly see from the info I've given you, trans people don't have enough protections and are still discriminated against by the federal and some state governments. Systematic transphobia exists and needs to be dealt with. Anyone who thinks that trans people are better off than they were is fair to say, but if anyone thinks that enough has been done, they're ignorant, the enemy, or both. Whether you're a Christian, Jew, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, or part of any other religion, you should support trans people. To make things simpler, we will go into Christianity. Since Islam is the second largest religion, if you want an Islamic approach to supporting trans people, there will be a link in the description. Anyways, if you're a Christian, you should support trans people because of Jesus' teachings. Just because you disagree with a trans person's existence, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't treat them like human beings. Jesus said to be kind to one another and help and support people instead of outcasting, bullying, and shaming people for differences. Even if you don't think trans people can go to heaven, you must leave that up for God to decide, because no one can judge and say someone else's sins are worse than their own. Also, if you're more outraged by a trans person than greed, which is one of the 7 deadly sins, you're being unreasonable and confusing. Why would you be outraged by a trans person than someone being greedy when you've been told that one is deadly and therefore worse than the other? Being against trans people is both irrational and unchristian. If you think this way, you need to understand exactly why you're a Christian. There are a few words that are used against trans people to belittle and bully them that a majority of people don't see as hurtful. I'm talking about the words such as TRAP, TRANNY, and SHEMALE. Specifically, we'll go with TRAP since it has a long history behind it that needs to be discussed. In the 1900s and even today, cis men use that word to say that they were trapped by trans women that they didn't know were trans. People have also killed trans women using this reason with trans panic defenses to get away with murder because they were quote-unquote scared of a trans woman. The fact that people can get away with murder using that is despicable, and anyone who says that it's okay for them to do that are also despicable. Using the word TRAP and other related words is rude, offensive, and a bit dehumanizing. If someone wants to be referred to or calls themselves these words, they have every right to do so, but don't use those words on people that don't identify or are okay with them. You might not see the problem, but there is one, and you should be aware of it. When it comes to trans people's mental health and stability, it's very rough and differs from person to person. According to a poll from the Human Rights Campaign, 40% of trans kids felt depressed most of or all the time in the past 30 days before they were asked. The attempted suicide rate among trans people is also alarming. About 30% of trans boys, along with 40% of non-binary kids and over 50% of trans girls, have attempted suicide according to 2018 surveys from the Human Rights Campaign. Hearing those numbers be as high as they are is very disturbing and hurts. In an ideal world, no one would attempt suicide or be depressed due to having stress and struggle in life because of their gender. There are a few ways that you can help trans people though. You can call them by their names and correct pronouns, along with respecting and standing up for them when they're being bullied or harassed. You can get clothes for them, tell them that they're accepted, and just be nice to them on a daily basis. It doesn't take much to be kind to trans people, but it takes a lot of effort to be actively hating against trans people. Being transphobic isn't good no matter how you phrase or say it. To conclude, I'd like to say thanks for watching and for hopefully being a good ally to trans people or being a trans person yourself. If you took away something from this video, let it be supporting trans rights and your fellow trans friends and comrades. If you didn't take away anything from this video and still don't like trans people, watch this video over and over or look up other videos until you support trans people. If you're going to or already left a hateful comment, be prepared to be hated. Solidarity, comrades, and trans rights.